Might not be able to.
My level. They look good.
Go ahead, Mike, say a few things so we can get the system calibrated.
And we burn more than a gallon. So that's a big thing.
No sound.
That's a big thing. So assuming that electric.
Not yet, we're getting the speakers worked out. They were working.
Got no sound.
Your electric will go
Have this
pretty
problem.
good.
If you go to the microphone, is it the right input?
So,
That could be, that's a good question.
yeah.
We just use it,
Yeah.
it's like microphone, notes.
Yeah, the
Sound.
installers could talk through like what a pretty.
Sure he's not muted?
When I had.
Well, it's clicked on speakers.
Or is he a mime?
Before we had solar.
He might be muted.
We say.
Oh, is he muted?
Yeah, right off the bat. It's unbelievable. And
Oh, I'm starting to hear it.
There he is.
again, once we had it solar.
Now we can.
Now we can.
Great.
Now we can.
I just want to know what other people are doing in my bedroom. Good morning, Hurley.
Good
Any
morning.
upstairs in the audience?
The Hofstadters?
Not today.
Not today, sorry.
Took the day off, go figure.
Excellent. Excellent.
So, and.
All right, so let's do this.
I'm assuming Lloyd is involved in your goings on there. If he's not, I'm going to yell at him.
No, well, Glenn is our building inspector, our building code inspector, his brother.
Contact the
42
website.
minutes.
Glenn Hofstetter is our building code inspector. That's who I thought you were referring to, actually.
His brother Lloyd is my longtime friend.
And now what do you want to take? And Central Hudson, your providers aren't here. Yes, yes.
Well, he's,
Is that the maximum we can get on it?
this should be also recorded on Zoom.
Oh, good, okay. Okay.
Turn on the recorder.
So, yeah.
Recording in progress.
There
And
you
that
go.
way we can get the sound.
Perfect.
What are they doing?
There you go. So, again, I don't know exactly how much time I have. We can either answer questions as we go, or we can answer questions at the end, and I'll try to run through it, but give you a feel for how much time we've allotted for me. It can be, you know, I can run through it all quickly in 20 minutes. Really answer questions.
Well, I thought,
What do you think, 10, 15 minutes?
well, he's saying he could run through it quickly in 20.
As quickly as he can do it would be
Yeah.
great.
But, well, could we give him till 2:30? Because then,
If the people have, you
for
have
answering
questions, you can
questions.
ask questions when he's done, sure.
Yeah.
Right, but if you
Yeah.
can tell us in 15 minutes, or it's 20 minutes, whatever, that's great. We're taping it, so we'll be able to refer to it and show it to other people.
yeah, so we're, yeah.
Yes, perfect.
So, yeah, 20 minutes and then maybe 10 minutes for questions? Would
That's
that,
fine, whatever you want. My time is your time.
okay.
Yes. Start to-
You know, we can, there's a lot of ways we can play this and answer some questions at the end. And of course, my contact information, and I'm pretty sure you have Matt Evans' contact information, is, you know, you can call us anytime, and we'll be supportive of any questions, anywhere, anytime, anyhow, just get a hold of us. So, I don't know what else you have on the agenda this morning.
Well, you're the last, you're the star of the show.
Your audio just went kind of per-fluid.
Okay,
But they haven't done the one, they should have done, they didn't actually.
but we can hear you fine, I
Okay,
think,
good.
Yes,
yeah.
but,
So,
So you just tell me when you want me to start.
well, I think now's a good time, 2 o'clock.
Good time as any, okay,
Yes.
so you need to, you will look need to screen.
Okay. Can you do it? Some,
Well, you have it disabled.
okay, so
So
I'll
you
do
need to
that.
enable screen sharing.
All right, I'll do that. I'm gonna,
Martha.
okay, I'm gonna make you a co-host, because that's like the easiest way to do it, I think.
Yep.
Whatever, you better, you let multiple people share screens, whichever.
It didn't come up as an option, so I co-hosted you.
I'll try to live up to the.
Are there any exceptions?
All right, so do you see my screen?
Yes.
No, I don't have it on full screen because in case we want to jump around. But anyway, so I'll get right started here. Good morning, everybody. I'm Mike DeWine. I am a New York Stretch Energy Code circuit rider, contractor for NYSERDA, standing in for Matt Evans, who's the regular circuit rider for your side of the river. Although I've worked with a bunch of towns on your side as well, mostly in Westchester, and of course the first adopter, Beacon. I've been into energy efficiency for, well, over 40 years, starting as a builder in the Adirondack region of New York, and I'm located in Saratoga, in the Saratoga County area. Most importantly, you need to know that, and I'm sure you're looking at the New York Stretch adoption as part of your Clean Energy Communities designation and impact action items work. The bottom line is you get 1,200 points when you got the New York Stretch Health Code, which is the second highest point getter, towards additional grants. Plus, there's a minimum of $5,000 that the municipality will receive for adopting New York Stretch, and I believe up to $15,000. You'll need to ask the CAT down there, the Hudson Valley HDRC folks about any detail there, but you have to adopt the New York Stretch in full to be a recipient. Important points include that this is a readily adoptable energy code. A number of communities had adopted over the years, over the last several decades, a more efficient energy code allowed by the New York State statutory development for the energy code in general, Article 11. It's an overlay of the 2018 IECC and the current 2020 New York State Energy Code. It is based on state-of-the-shelf. It's not state-of-the-art stuff. It isn't huge sweeping changes. It's just incremental changes that add up overall to about 10, 11% more efficient than the existing energy code. And it will be, it is equivalent to what will be adopted in the next couple of years. We're thinking 2023, if they're lucky. The neat part is, code officials don't have to do anything exciting or different to enforce it. It uses all the old and basic systems since it's an overlay. It's pretty simple stuff. Lots of benefits to the community. The energy code that I've been promoting since New York adopted it in '79 as a builder back then, I learned long ago is the most cost-effective way to work on the component of energy that we use that's around 40% on average in our building. The money you spend on complying with the energy codes, and includes the New York Stretch, of course, stays in the community via energy saved, by money spent on materials and systems, and it's the only code that pays for itself. It also enhances the durability and resiliency and sustainability of our buildings. Most importantly, in this time of COVID, also significant air quality improvements in extensive cost-benefit analysis conducted by NYSERDA over the past few years. The statewide weighted average for residential construction, single families, around a 5-year simple payback, and something just under 10 years. Overall, the New York stretch is about 10 years in terms of simple payback. And that's based on just, simple payback and not taking advantage of all the incentives that are available from the utilities and from NYSERDA to do a lot of the energy measures that are required by New York stretch. That in 2023 you won't be able to take advantage of because it'll be in the statewide base code. So you can take advantage of incentives to even shorten this simple payback period. Again, broke it down by climate zone. In climate zone 4 and 5, we see paybacks of somewhere between 5 and 10 years, with a pretty small, in today's terms, incremental cost differential. Now, of course, that's gone up, but it's all relative. With the pricing that's increased in New York for building materials, but again, all relative. Commercial construction, same deal, incremental cost about $1 square foot, simple payback, and again, without taking advantage of any of the significant incentives that utilities have, and it's in the range of 10 to 11% simple payback, and depending on where you are in the region, a fairly significant amount of the construction is commercial. What's different? Well, there's small increments. Yes. Do you have a question?
No.
Okay. There's improved window performance and insulation requirement increases. For example, I was in Westchester. I was working with a roofing contractor who was concerned that where the energy code and the New York stretch affects existing buildings, renovations and such, that it would increase the cost of his roofing replacement jobs out of sight and put them out of business and all that we hear concerns about it. In fact, when we looked at it, if you replace, for example, a commercial flat roof, which usually is a rubber or roll-on type material over top of board stock insulation on top of the roof deck, where the roof has failed and the insulation's gotten all funky and wet and isn't working right. If you replace it under just the regular code that we're enforcing now, you might have to replace to an R30. The New York stretch only adds an R3 to that. And when he heard that, he said, well, I wouldn't even change my estimates for that little bit. So, it's very minimal. With renovation work, you only have to change the new work that you're doing. If you're replacing windows, the base code and the New York stretch code have requirements for replacing windows and doing a little bit better on windows. Nothing rocket science. So improved lighting and electrical, which is a slam dunk because the utilities are just about giving that away. Improved mechanical systems. There's also requirements for solar and electric vehicle and readiness, which is most important to understand. There's no requirement for a solar photovoltaic so that you have to have electric vehicle charging stations. All it does is, in the course of construction, and this is mainly new construction, you want to do the things that are low cost, no cost, so that to prepare for solar photovoltaics and electrical vehicle charging, which really lowers the soft cost of adding them if the building owner or resident wants to do that. So this is all covered in a resource page, which I'll show you a little further on here. Again, very similar to those changes also in residential changes. There's the allowance that the passive house designation can be used towards the New York stretch compliance. Passive house is a certification that's considerably better than New York stretch even, but the energy rating index for the code, the ERI, in the passive house has to meet the stretch code requirements. But a popular building program, especially down that ways. So all the triggers for existing buildings are the same for existing buildings. Only the new work is being done. Elements of the building that aren't part of what's being worked on don't require upgrading or updating to the energy code or the New York stretch code. There are a couple of things for building commissioning and also air barrier requirements, but again, only apply where the baseline code requires them. And again, in new buildings, new construction, those things aren't mandatory. We get the question as to whether or not a local municipality can amend or append the New York stretch code. Well, they can append it, they can add to it, as long as it's at least as stringent or more stringent than the New York stretch 2020 that you have in hand. There's no additional resources to do better than code from NYSERDA, and you can't make the code weaker than the proposed New York stretch 2020. Some communities have asked, well, can we just adopt it for a commercial building or just new construction? And the answer is yes, you could do that. However, you wouldn't get credit for the Clean Energy Communities program. It has to be adopted in its entirety to have the effect that they're looking for. Again, we're only looking at 10% improvement over the base existing code. There are a couple simple submittals that a community has to make to file with the New York State Department of State and the Code Council. And there is one little language change that has to be made to the model language that we have supplied to you in that resource site, which again I will show you. Some communities wonder about third-party inspection and verification. That's only necessary if the builder chooses to do a compliance path that's allowed by all the codes and the New York stretch code already. If they choose to do the energy rating index, for example, they may need to use a home energy rater. And that's paid for by the builder. The town of Bedford, for example, requires all their new homes to use an energy rater and use the ERI performance path, the energy rating index. And again, the builder pays for that service, which is kind of interesting and unique. If they use it to their advantage, to take some of the enforcement load off of them for the energy code, because the raters do 75% of the legwork. So again, fairly simple and straightforward. The resources that I mentioned before are considerable. You have the circuit riders, myself, and primarily for your town, Matt Evans. He couldn't be here today because something he had going on with family. And so we're here. Our time is your time, and any questions any of you have listening in, please don't hesitate to pick up the phone or email us, and we'll get on the horn with you and walk through anything you've got. Or if you need a formal presentation to the board or whoever. There's an adoption guide comparison document. And that cost-effective analysis, which is hundreds of pages long, but and very complete. There's training specifically for the New York stretch and code enforcement tools. Most code officials use this ResCheck and CompCheck software that NYSERDA has paid to have modified to use for the New York stretch, so it's really handy. The best way to, to make sure you're getting all your enforcement documentation with permits is to say to the permit applicant, well, I would like a ResCheck or CompCheck reports for this project. There's also a hotline and technical and interpretation assistance, and it's all here at this website, which you will have. I will send this to you folks when I'm done here, so that anybody who might want it, might put it up on the website or what have you. Who's adopted around you? Well, this is a small list of folks, mostly in this region, who have adopted. There's quite a few, and it's not complete because it's hard to keep up with. I'm working with probably 20 communities right now in my regions, which include the North Country, the Capital Region, and primarily Westchester County, while Matt has the rest of the Mid-Hudson and Long Island in its city. But, everybody from the city of New Rochelle to a number of towns down that way, downtown of Bethel, has adopted, and on and on. So there's quite a few. So I'll stop there. I'm a minute under my 20 minutes, and I can answer questions now. But again, here is my contact information. I'm sorry I didn't put Matt's on here too. I just simply forgot about it. And feel free to ask away.
Does anybody have any questions this time? Go ahead, Bill. I don't know if he might have to talk into the computer microphone,
Yeah.
or this, maybe, I wonder if he could hear you on this microphone. It's not plugged into the computer, but it'll be louder.
Can you hear me?
Now it's not.
Can you hear me okay?
It's not very clear. Try again.
Come closer to the computer.
Yeah, let me get closer to the computer.
I would best sit down right at the
Go ahead.
computer
Okay. So,
and speak clearly into the microphone.
okay, can you hear me better?
A little bit. So go slowly and carefully, because
Okay.
I'm an old guy and I have trouble hearing.
Okay. So the state is going to adopt it in 2023 statewide, or?
No, the state is not adopting this statewide. It's adopting a new base code based on the next version of the International Energy Code,
Okay.
which is about equivalent in energy efficiency, but it's not the same. It's not the New York stretch. That's a misunderstanding that seems to be floating around. We've got people asking us, well, why don't we just wait till we do it statewide? Well, several reasons. Number one, it's going to be a code that is far more complex and frankly harder to comply with. And also, between now and then, we'll get ahead of that code and we can take advantage of incentives. Homeowners, building owners, builders, developers can take advantage of those incentives. Plus, the community gets, all those points and $5,000 or more. You get the points, you can go after bigger grants as well. And all you have to do is adopt this thing, by your hearing process or whatever, before the end of this year. You can work out the details after the implementation date to be the first of the year for all of that matters.
Okay, so the stretch energy code is, the new code that's gonna come out in 2023 is gonna be not as stringent as stretch energy code or equivalent to
No,
it?
they're equivalent, roughly equivalent. I mean, within a hair of percentage or whatever.
Okay,
But it's
thank
different.
you.
It's not the New York stretch code that's being adopted.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And Mike, somebody asked me a question, I haven't been able to find the answer, which is, how does it apply when you're using modular, home, pieces from out of state? How do we make sure that it complies to our local law if we adopt your stretch?
Well, the modular housing industry works directly with the New York State Department of State on all of its code compliance with its modular structure. And the way that happens is that the plans are reviewed by the Department of State. So, if you know or somebody comes to you with a modular project, you'll have to notify them that, hey, this new modular home has to comply with the New York stretch, and then their design team just makes sure that that information gets incorporated into the design and to the New York State Department of State. The Department of State knows everybody who's adopting and is incorporating this background and into their whole process.
So is there some kind of a stamping process that happens on the plans or something that to certify that it meets the code? Or?
Yeah. So the New York State Department of State approves the plans with the designer at the factory, however they work it at their end. But the Department of State approves that set of plans before it's built and shipped to New York State for construction of all the site elements.
Okay. Thank you. So I don't think we have any more questions at this time, Mike.
Okay.
But thank you very much for this.
Yeah,
It's
my
been really
pleasure.
fun.
And again, please do not, any of you, hesitate to give me a call. You said Glenn is the code official there?
Yes.
He probably barely remembers me, but if he has any questions or concerns about them, tell him I'm an old buddy of Lloyd's, and he can call me anytime, and we'll go through it to make sure it's very important that he's comfortable with this,
I agree.
of course,
Mhm.
and I can help him get through that.
Okay, great.
And I'm glad to. Again, any old time, I'm an old guy, so I'm up early, and when he is, and I go to bed early, so I may answer him at 9, 10 o'clock at night, but I will at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Great. Good to hear.
Okay, and I will get this off to you, to the town address email address that I've got.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Yeah, and
All right.
we'll probably post it on our website and this recording also probably. So
I will add Matt Evans as the primary contact here as well to this before I send it on over, okay?
great, that'd be perfect.
All right?
All right.
Well, you all be well, happy Sunday, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day and a wonderful fall. It's gorgeous out. Get out and enjoy it, and be well.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.